Hi, my name is Issaaf, and I'm here to sell you a new way of working. So picture this. It's 4 p.m. on a Thursday. You're stuck in yet another boring meeting. Your stomach's starting to make some weird noises, and the only thing you can think about is the lapskaus you're having for dinner tonight. This meeting is taking way too long. Your team's trying to have a workshop to figure out some solution for this new user problem that you just found out about, but it's not going too well. The developers don't think any of it is feasible, the product manager doesn't believe it would even cover the user need, and the designer is on the verge of quitting. So you might as well just send that "I'll be late for dinner" text and continue sipping the horrible coffee in your hand. We've all been there, chances are as recently as this very week. I mean, this way of working with workshops and ideation sessions and really, really long meetings has worked for a long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is the only way to do things. So let me put on my salesman hat for a bit and try to pitch a new way to you. Introducing hackathons. The let's work on a school project together and have a sleepover, except you're an adult with an actual job. So what actually is a hackathon? As the name suggests, you can think of it as a marathon for problem solving, with a lot more snacks and a lot less running, but just the same amount of blood, sweat, and tears. And since the ancient times of the Facebook, hackathons have been used by companies and universities as short, intensive events where teams of enthusiastic programmers, designers, and innovators come together for around 24 hours or more, a weekend at most, to innovate solutions for a specific problem. And often, there is usually like some kind of challenge. So you can, for example, think of it as during COVID, there was a lot of hackathons revolved around finding some innovative solutions for COVID-19. Some of them were sponsored by some government bodies, others by companies or universities, and so on. And hackathons are traditionally very competitive in their nature. So it's a survival of the fittest type of thing, where the team that ends up creating the most ends up taking the big win. But it's not just about winning. It is also about creating the greatest thing you can in a very short time, or in a very short period of time. So the process that hackathons allow for encourages for out-of-the-box thinking and really, really rapid problem solving. Plus, they're also the perfect opportunity for bonding. Again, think of a school project all-nighter, but for adults. So what would a hackathon look like? Again, you have around two types of hackathons. You have the traditional hackathons and internal hackathons. In a traditional hackathon, you would have a group of people with something in common, either interest or age group, all gathering at one place, sponsored by a company or a university or something, and all working towards finding a solution for some kind of problem. There would be a lot of free pizza, merch, and just a lot of excitement. And the participants who would potentially start out by not knowing each other would start by teaming up, brainstorming, and prototyping the fastest solution they can think of. And because speed is a very important thing here, usually they would disregard best practices in order to achieve this lightning speed. And by the end of the hackathon, one or more of the teams would take the win. And very similarly, an internal hackathon is quite the same thing, except it is not open to the public. It would be just internal for a specific company. So your team or your department would all gather at the office or some cool location and try to brainstorm or find solutions for a certain problem. This could be revolutionizing onboarding or increasing user retention. And HR would have bought a lot of free pizza, a lot of merch, and everyone would be very excited to spend the whole night at the office. And by the end of it, you would end up with an MVP or more that you can showcase to the rest of the company and a bunch of learnings on the problem. And the hackathons are not actually like a new concept. Many of your favorite products and features have come to life that way. Spotify Discover Weekly, for one, came to life at one of Spotify's Hackadays, and now has become an integral part of the platform. I'm sure a lot of you have found your favorite jams through it. And there are many, many more examples of this. Gmail started as a hackathon project called Caribou at one of Google's hackathons. And a lot of Facebook's features, like tagging in comments or the reaction button, or even all of Twitter and Zapier as concepts, all came about to be at a hackathon. But my absolute favorite one is Duolingo's streak feature, which I'm sure has stressed out a lot of you into learning a new language. And that one also has come about in one of Duolingo's earlier hackathons, and was actually shelved for a while before it ended up becoming one of the key selling points of the app. So why do hackathons actually work? Well, if you think about it, why do sports teams tend to do their best when they're at a competition rather than when they're at regular practice? Or why do jazz musicians tend to jam their best when they can improvise rather than follow notes? I think the magic here actually lies in the pressure, or in the blend of pressure and passion. Hackathons create this pressure cooker type of environment where participants have a very short amount of time to turn their ideas into reality. And this type of urgency tends to spark creativity and forces really, really quick decision-making. Just the same way as how athletes tend to go above and beyond when victory is on the line, participants in hackathons will go above and beyond when the hackathon deadline is coming up. And luckily, creating the perfect hackathon is not as hard as you may think. So you need 3 key ingredients. First off, you need snacks, goodies, and a prize of some sort. I mean, these things might sound silly or unimportant, but if you think about it, adults at a corporate job still are just tall children that get very excited over Smash and Pepsi Max. So do not underestimate the true power of some good old freebies. And aside from the freebies, another really important thing is a good atmosphere. So hackathons are not just about locking a bunch of people in a room and forcing them to overwork themselves throughout the night. It's actually a lot more about creating a good atmosphere where people can truly unleash their creativity, think outside the box, and feel very safe to experiment with new thoughts and new ideas and just do crazy things that they wouldn't normally do at a regular 9-to-5 pace. And aside from all of these things, it is also really important to note that the goal of a hackathon should not be to create the best thing you can within the shortest amount of time. But it should rather be a lot more about creating a minimum viable product that not only maximizes the amounts of learning you get, but also gives you all the insights and knowledge on the problem at hand. So hackathons are a really, really good way to fail fast and therefore learn a lot faster the topic at hand. So for a really good hackathon, you would usually have 6 stages. First off, you would start with a kickoff. At this stage, you would probably have a bunch of people locked in the same room, all very excited to work on this problem you have. You would start off by laying a foundation for what your problem is. You would explain why everyone is here, what the problem is, how you found out about it, and why you should be solving it. Let's say, for example, you work at a company that makes a reading app for children. And this hackathon is for figuring out how to make kids more engaged in reading. Then you would start off the first few hours by explaining the problem, explaining how you found out about it, why it's important, what value it will bring if you're actually able to solve it. And your goal by the end of the kickoff is that everybody leaving the room has the same amount of knowledge and context on the problem. And once you've laid this foundation and everybody has the same amount of understanding on the problem, this is where the fun begins. So brainstorming sessions begin, and everybody starts they're saying the wildest ideas they can think of. Maybe someone will scream AI, or gamification, or leaderboards, or just any wild ideas. And at this point, it is very important to remember that feasibility should not be a concern. You should think quite big. I mean, you should not try to limit what your ideas are to the span of time you have, because realistically, 24 hours of work will never create the greatest solution ever. So at this phase, you should think big and just try to imagine what the best case solution is. And then you jump to the planning. So you've heard of long-term and short-term planning, but have you heard of, in the next few hours, short-term planning? So at this point, you need to become an unrealistic realist. What you're making tonight should not go into production tomorrow, but you can still plan for it anyways. So get all the ideas that you have gotten from the brainstorming session and try to narrow them down to what would be almost feasible within one night, but also would be the best solution. So resources at a hackathon are more scarce than ever, but motivation is also at an all-time high. So the 24-hour limitation that you would have at a normal workday does not really exist in hackathons, so you should define your MVP and get going. But not so fast. So before you jump from planning to actually working on something, you still need to take a quick snacking break. And these breaks in between the stages of a hackathon are really what makes a hackathon so powerful to team cultures and so good at creating bonds between your team members. So do not underestimate the power of a good snack break and fika, as the Swedes like to call it. And finally, you get to the actually really important part. Everyone huddles up, working on different things, and all in the same room and with access to every other single person they might need. You might have a group working on or sketching some low-fidelity designs, others planning the architecture or finding out which tools they can use to bootstrap this vision. Everyone will work, or people will work a bit differently throughout the night. So some people might not last the whole time, and others might go a bit extra hard the last hours. Energy will spike up and down, but towards the final hour, motivation will hit an all-time high. And the best part about this is really all the team bonding and building experiences that you get throughout working together in such a style. So going bowling with your coworkers or wine tasting does build a lot of great bonds, but I mean, nothing will really build the same types of bonds that a hackathon or a single mission that everyone is working towards throughout the night will. And finally, after all the brain-busting strategizing and the rapid-fire coding, you get to the final, or the grand finale. Now you get to present the great work that you've spent all night on. So I don't know about you, but at least I've always had this irresistible urge or this innate human need to brag about the things I've done. And this is exactly where you get to do that. This phase is commonly one of the best parts of a hackathon for the participants. You've worked hard, you've played hard, and now it's time to brag a bit hard. It's not just about flaunting your final product. It's also about storytelling, explaining how you went from just an idea to an actual real feature or product or something. And you need to talk about all the shortcuts you took, all the learnings you got throughout this whole phase, and make sure that everybody gets to see the vision that everybody that participated in the hackathon got to see. But to get back to reality a bit here, the truth is hackathons might not really be the best approach for everyone. So in a perfect world, everybody would be able to be locked in a room throughout the night and work on something and do an all-nighter. But realistically, a lot of us lead, or all of us lead very different lifestyles and have diverse obligations. For example, you might have kids or young children that you can't leave alone at night. Or you might be committed to a synchronized swimming club who would be very, very disappointed if you missed practice just to hang out at the office all night. So it's really important to note that the concept or the aspect of staying up all night is not essential to the success of hackathons. I mean, it surely does help a lot, but the real reason why hackathons why hackathons are so successful is not solely reliant on this. In fact, what truly contributes to hackathon's success is the elimination of all distractions. So by maintaining a laser-like focus and making sure that no other distractions interrupt the flow of working on a hackathon, this creates the perfect environment to actually innovate and be able to go above and beyond. So cancel those meetings and don't try to work on different projects at the same time, and just try to have as much or as little distractions as possible. As much as you like to engage in conversations with Kari from the Stavanger office during the hackathon, you should not do that. And context switching is actually one of the biggest enemies to cognitive function. So make sure to turn off your Slack notifications and not check your emails. But now I've preached a lot about hackathons and why they are the greatest thing ever without really giving you any reason to trust me. So for some background on this, I work at a startup called Celsia, where we have made hackathons our entire personality. We've taken this concept to some seriously unconventional places. So we've done anything we could think of, from hackathons on a train to Stockholm, to hackathons in someone's kitchen at 4 a.m., or even just the good old office. And I remember this one time where we almost gave our security guard a heart attack because we were blasting Eye of the Tiger at 4 a.m. But I mean, it really worked. We got very motivated by it, even though the security guard would disagree. And yeah, you might be thinking, like, why go to such extremes? What is the difference between a hackathon and just working a lot? And I think the secret here, or the real reason for this, is that these hackathons have not only given us an insanely competitive advantage, but they've also, or as a startup, resources are very scarce and time is our biggest enemy. So being able to build things really, really fast at hackathons has made us succeed a lot more than we would at a regular pace. But what is a lot more important than that is all the bonds that it had given us, which I don't think we would have been able to get at a regular 9-to-5 pace. I mean, there really isn't a better way to bond with your colleagues than to watch them brush their teeth as they tell their partner why there's 5 strangers in the coding on the kitchen table. So it really works. All right, so I've talked a lot now, so to wrap this up, I just want to share one thing. Hackathons might not really be for everyone, and that's okay. But there is something incredibly liberating about just diving headfirst into some problem, spending all your energy and resources on it, and trying to find out what your actual human limit is to finding a solution. And even if your project flops, you will still get to brag about it for a long time. You stayed up all night, so it's very much worth it. And maybe you will stumble upon some crazy idea towards the early morning hours, or you'll figure out that hackathons aren't actually your cup of tea. That doesn't matter. What really matters is that you've tried a new way of working and you've broken free from the norm. So my final thing is, Rome was not built in a day, but your next feature might be. Thank you.
Issaaf Kattan! All right, Issaaf. High five. We're going to get the high fives going. Brilliant. We're going to do a little game, okay? So if you didn't, sit back down. I didn't say you could leave. So I'm organizing this. This is how you organize an audience en masse. I'm just kidding. I'm terrifying you. You can go to the bathroom. That's allowed. So if you didn't raise your hand earlier, you've never done a hackathon, would you be interested to do one? Raise your hand if you'd be interested. There's a couple of. Well, you need to talk again. No, I'm just kidding. Issaaf, come and join us over here. We have Anja Jostein on Rada. Should we put these two to use, finally? Observing all day, Jostein. Give it up for our Rada stage.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome back, Issaaf.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you back.
Yeah.
Yes, hackathons. You did address that they are not necessarily for everyone, but do you think there's this particular kind of organization they benefit? Like, should the Norwegian police IT department isolate themselves in a cabin in the woods, stay up all night, drink coffee? Or is it for,
I mean, I think hackathons are probably the most beneficial or powerful when a company is really small. So in the beginning or early days of a company, because then, then you actually do know everyone, and it's a lot less weird to watch them brush their teeth. Yeah. But still, I think it is beneficial for any company of any size. I think, especially at a really big organization like the police, for example, it is quite nice to be able to just isolate for a little bit and get to spend time with your colleagues and try to work very hard on solving something.
Yeah.
So my experience is that it's hard enough to get people to be engaged in a boring workshop with Post-its on the wall. So I wonder, is this most for startups and young people and not for old men like me and people in suits?
I mean, I feel like I can find something that would get you really hyped up to work on, right? So I think it's for everyone. I mean, why is music or sports or competitions in general, are they just for young people or small companies? No, they're for everyone. So I think, if you find something that is exciting enough for people to work on, then that they are really passionate about, and you create like a very fun and inspiring atmosphere, I think it would work for any organization ever. Yeah. And even you.
Even you, Jostein.
Even me. In Celsia, do you have Do you also include the kind of business people in this, or?
Yeah, so we've tried a couple of times, and it has worked well. We had to lock them in a cabin, though, because when we tried at the office, they kept running away for meetings. Locking them in a cabin with no internet connection really worked. And it's super useful to have them, because not only do they get to see like the process of how this feature that they've been nagging for a while has gotten to life, but they also get to give input and be a part of the whole thing, which I think they enjoy a lot and ends up benefiting the process a lot.
So it's not only for designers and coders. No. And it reminds me of the original idea behind Scrum, which actually was to put people, a cross-functional team, in a cabin and make something. So, but then after a while, it became something else.
Yeah, I guess there's something illegal about keeping people in a cabin. Don't you need to let them out?
Locking people up is like not great, but it's efficient though.
Yeah, it really works.
I highly recommend taking your team out of its normal setting as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, people do have dogs and laundry and kids and stuff. Do you find it hard or difficult in some way to engage them when they have to leave, or
I think it's like a little bit harder, because realistically, if you're not at a specific location, you will lose some of the context. But if people have ownership or feel a certain ownership over part of the project or part of the hackathon, then no matter what they're doing, even if they're doing laundry, they will still be thinking about this, and they will still be kind of brainstorming, no matter the location or the...
It's sort of like being in the shower.
Yeah.
I often have my best work ideas in the shower, so I'll start billing you for that. But can you tell us a little bit, you've been here twice, and you're very inspiring and talk about very concrete stuff, which I love. So I thought, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do every day when you're not hackathoning?
Yeah, so I just kind of wait between my Oslos, and I don't do so much in between. Kind of the highlight of my year. So I work at a startup called Celsia, where currently I lead the R&D team, and we are trying to make software to help companies report on sustainability. So it's a very fun place to be. It feels like we're trying to make a difference in one of the ways that we can. And I'm originally from Lebanon, and I moved to Norway 4 years ago, and I've been told that I have a very thick Norwegian accent, specifically by you last year.
That's true.
And I can make it even thicker. But I actually don't speak Norwegian, which does not help much.
Så du snakker norsk egentlig?
Nei, jeg forstår litt, men ikke så mye.
Ja, det er bra. Ja. Men tusen takk for at du kom da. Thank you very much, Issaaf.
Thank you, Issaaf.
It was great having you.
It was great having you.